here with a special guest. She is a writer from Spain, from Madrid. Her name is Fatima Carrero, and we're gonna talk about her job as a writer. So how you doing?
Hi, Taylor. How are you? Hi, everybody.
By the way, guys, this is her first time being interviewed, so please cut her some slack. So, because she's also kind of nervous, like it's the first time she ever done something like this. So please, again, try to be nice in the comment sections, please.
Don't be so hard on me, please, guys.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to become a writer?
Well, my parents used to read to me each night when I was very little, so it's been like almost on my DNA. My father also loved to read. He was like a bookworm, and I also wrote a sequel to a book here by a Spanish writer called Ruiz Zafón. I don't know if you know him, but he used to be pretty famous here. And I wrote the sequel because I didn't like the ending. So I guess nothing really inspired me. It's not like a conscious decision I took. It just came naturally. In the moment I had like a story to tell, I just went to it. Let's try it.
So, if you think of something in your head, it's safe to say you would just like to write it down, and it's easier to think about it that way when you're in the moment to write it down.
I don't usually write it down. I mean, this is like a huge thing for writers because we think, oh yeah, I'm going to remember it, but you don't remember everything you come up with. So but I don't usually just write it down or anything. I just go along with it. I think about it. I ponder it in my head. It's like I run in circles, and that's how I make this story grow. It's like there's this huge story in my head, and it's downloaded into my brain all of a sudden, and I know what's going to happen more or less, and then I just go with it. I don't plan it.
It's just literally just pops into your head just like that.
Yeah, it's like when you download the file from the internet, it's the same thing.
Like, have you had any sort of moments like when you were sleeping, and then one night you just wake up, it's like, oh my god, I must think about this story right now.
Well, in fact, I never dreamed about anything. It's not like, Stephanie Meyer, the the woman who wrote Twilight, for people who don't know it. She dreamed about her characters, but I never dreamed about them. So it's kind of funny. They just come to me. It's like all of a sudden an image just pops up in my brain, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. Who are you? And then I start to dig deeper, and that's how more or less it's a pretty organic transition for me.
So, like, how long have you been like a writer? It's like, it's been how many years for you?
I've been writing since 2009, actually. I mean, like a real author. That makes 11 years already. Well,
Holy
time
crap.
flies.
Because I noticed that you more recently you published like a post talking about your latest book, and it was called Songs for Madeline. So, can you explain to me and my audience what your story's about?
Songs for Madeline, it's a story about a young woman who must live with the consequences of her actions. She's a groupie, and she got into that world of the music business because she got tricked. And when the story begins, she's lacking a lot of confidence to just trust herself and just quit because she hates being a groupie. She hates to be sleeping around with every musician around, and she hates to just feel like an object that's passed along. And she writes everything down. She wears a mask to tell the world that she's enjoying a lot what she's doing, but she doesn't. So she writes down. on her. It's like a notebook, and she writes poems, and she writes, random phrases and sentences, and she just pours all her negativity on that notebook. One day they began a new tour with a new band. So the singer over there is called Eric Parks, and he hates groupies. And they sort of have a big clash. They just don't really get along. But one day, when they're driving off Las Vegas, they're merging on the road. Uh, there's a heartbreaking, and Madeleine's notebook falls to the floor, and Eric finds it. So that's where the story begins. Madeleine actually notices, with a little help of her friends, she notices that she can actually be herself and be brave and face herself and grow and start loving herself. Because Eric also gives her a big opportunity, and that's everything I can tell, because if not, that's gonna be a lot of spoilers. But she learns how to love herself and how to appreciate life.
That sounds really interesting. And so, how long have you thought about the story? Like, how many years did it take for you to write that book?
Well, it took me like 8 years. At first, I was when I began writing, I was very lost. I didn't actually I didn't actually know what I was doing, to be honest. So I wrote this huge book. It was a very long book. It had like 600, yeah, 600 pages or so. It was huge, to be honest.
Wow,
I
that's
had,
almost
yeah,
as long. It's almost as long as Harry Potter.
yeah. I mean, definitely, I had no chances of going very far with that huge book. So I had to chop it down. I mean, the word count, obviously not the book itself. um, and I had, just to work a lot on it. Just to, I had to cut chapters, and I had to modify a lot of the.
Like when you were cutting the chapters down, like you kind of felt dead inside, like, oh my god, I cannot remove this part. It's essential to the story. Or
Yeah, I had my little crisis. Yeah, I had. Yeah, I was very sad. I had the original story in another file, so I don't really lose it. Yeah, but definitely it was very hard.
yeah, because I can imagine because like if you start of an idea for a long period of time, you don't want a lot of it to be go away because you thought about it for a long time and it's like, oh no, I don't want this part. It's essential to the character development or something.
Yeah, definitely. It was, it's always a hard place when you find yourself saying, "Gosh, I have to kill my darlings," and that doesn't mean even like killing a character off. It's just like I need to kill this is scene that it's everything for me, and but it's not helping. It's not taking the story forward. So you gotta be honest with yourself as a writer, and just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, because like usually for the process for writers, I know like you had to write first is the timeline, the sequences of events. Then you had to write the rough draft, and then after the rough draft, you had to write the final draft. So, how would you say how long did it take for you to write the rough draft and the timeline for your story?
I wrote many drafts, to be honest. The first one, I mean, first one, it didn't take me that much. I just started writing, and it took me like a month and a half or so. Yeah, it was a pretty fast. Mm, yeah, it was pretty fast. Yeah, I remember that. But then I had to, I started. writing, writing, writing. Right now, nowadays, it doesn't really take me that much to just write a polished draft. It's like I already have the tools and the knowledge to know what I'm doing, so it doesn't take me as much. If I work hard on it, I can get a polished draft around a month and a half if everything goes fine and I don't get stuck anywhere.
Right, because there's also the process of editing too, because when you write a book, you can also find an editor. Sometimes I know like people just ask their friends to correct spelling mistakes, or sometimes the publisher would do it for you. Like, was it hard for you to find a publisher for your book, or did you self-publish it?
I started querying with it, but since it took me that much to write it, I wanted to have it published already, and I didn't have the patience to just wait on the query trenches. So I just really self-published. I decided to be my own boss and my own entrepreneur, and I decided to self-publish. It wasn't. I didn't have just. I wasn't patient enough, I guess.
So, like, I know that the book is available for ebooks and it's also hardcover. Like, how did you get it for hardcover? Because I know for self-publishing, it's easier to do the ebook than to, find someone to print out a copy.
Um, can you repeat the question,
Was
please?
was I too fast? Oh my goodness.
No, the connection was bad for a second. Sorry.
Okay, my question was like, it seemed as though like to self publish it's easier to do an ebook. Like, is it like was it harder to try to print out a hard copy of your book?
You mean formatting?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it wasn't very hard to format I mean, the book is way easier to format, but not the. It's a process of learning a new thing, and the physical copy, the paperback, was also easy. I enjoy it very much.
Okay. Now it seems as though like we live in an age where information is kind of easy. Like people can just go on a computer, look up for something within seconds. You can find your article, find the news, or whatever. Like, what is it like to be like an author in an age of digital information? Like, do you see that bookstores might, be gone forever, or what do you think the future lies for books in the future?
Being a writer in the age of digital information is it's somehow easier, but then it has its perks and its bad things. You know, it's easier because you have a lot of potential readers out there, and you don't need to just have any people in between to just get your book to be known. You know, and I don't really see in stores disappearing. To be honest, even the big companies are very fond of ebooks and ebook distribution. I see somehow that paperbacks might be in a little bit more danger, not danger per se, but maybe print on demand might increase in the next years. Even with what's happening nowadays, it's easier for publishing companies to just, instead of having all the distribution and the physical copies, like just say, I don't know, 20 copies on one bookstore, they might be think it's better for them to just have one or two, and if people get interested in it, then just demand. I mean, just make an order and say, "Hey, we want this book for this person."
Right. Now, for like, I'm not sure about like in Madrid, but in my state, there's like a major retailer that closed down. The major retailer is called Border Bookstores. Are there any bookstores that have been closing down in Madrid?
Not yet. I hope not, to be honest, because it's bookstores are very mythical. Like they are very important in people's lives. You just go to the store and you touch the books. It's more like, blockbuster. I hope it bookstores don't really meet that fate. To be
Yeah,
honest.
because I
Yeah.
remember when I was a kid, I would go to Blockbusters to rent movies, and it's not like the same like using Netflix because you can just go to the aisles, you see the movies, you can ask the staff, "Hey, what's the best movie for this week or that week?" And so you have a bit of a better, I guess, human connection when you go in person, ask questions about what's a good movie or not a good movie. And I'm sure it's the same thing for bookstores. Like you could probably ask the person who run the bookstore, "Hey, what's a good book that I should read this week or that week or whatever."
Yeah, what's the best book for my 7-year-old niece, right? Or
Right, right. So when you released the book, and did it sell in bookstores or how did it go?
my book. Do you mean my book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your book. Yeah.
My book might be available for bookstores, not in the US as of today, but I'm planning on it in the near future. And here in Spain, it's been on several bookstores in Madrid. It's been selling pretty well. So I'm happy, and I'm planning on getting my ebook on Barnes and Noble over there for the US market.
Wow. So like when you saw the book at the store, like did your heart just sink like, "Oh my God, I can't believe my book's on."
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I can believe it's happening. People are buying my book. It's like saying, wow, yeah,
When
it's
you went to the bookstore, like did anybody ask for any kind of autographs?
I don't know yet. That's not happened. I'm not there yet. But I hope I arrive there. I get there one day.
You mentioned that your book sold pretty well. Like, I'm not sure what's the equivalent of the New York Times bestseller in Spain. So, like, was it like number one or?
No, 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 not this far. But I mean, all the copies I ordered, all of them sold pretty well. So it's not by far that I got to a best-selling
Like
level.
which one? Like which one sold the most? Like did the physical copies sell the most, or was it like the digital copies?
It was the physical copies. It was
Okay.
in a bookstore.
Okay. Wow. So I think that's all we're gonna talk about right now for your interview. Now, before we sign out, I first want to state that her book is not just available in Spanish. She also made an English translation of the book. So if anyone watching this interview do not understand Spanish, you can check out the English translation. She also translated it herself. Uh, and also, what's your social media? And also, where can people find your book on the internet?
Well, you can find it on Amazon, all platforms of Amazon. You can find it on Amazon Canada, Amazon Australia, Amazon for the States, .com, just UK. You can find it pretty much everywhere, even in Japan. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and you can just connect with me, come say hi, and I will say hi. Hi back. How are you guys?
Okay. And I guess for my social media, I'm pretty much everywhere. It's just Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. At Tyler Preston 20. Thanks again for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck for your future, for your upcoming books or whatever you're gonna do.
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you having me here today. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Bye bye, everybody. Okay, we're offline.